Gaudy. So Gaudy. Gaudy Stats. Gaudy Stats. Good God, that's Gaudy. Welcome to Gaudy Stats.
With Ben Simmons.
What's on the menu, Benny boy?
Okay, today on this podcast, I'm on the road. It's Christmas time. I'm in a hotel room, but I'm not gonna stop because I can't. All right, but this is gonna be a self-indulgent podcast. No way getting around that. This podcast will be the equivalent of like me giving you a gift that I want. You ever get like, your significant other or like, one of your friends, your roommates or something will give you, here's a toaster oven. Well, that person had been talking about how they wanted a toaster oven forever, and them getting you one allows them to use the toaster oven. Well, this is the same thing, guys. I'm a Phoenix Suns fan. I've mentioned it, but in case you're new to the pod, now you know. And in this pod, I'm going to delve into the 2005, 7 seconds or less, Steve Nash-led Amari Stoudemire dunking in everyone's face Phoenix Suns squad. It was a record-setting offensive juggernaut and golden age, modern-day golden age for the Phoenix Suns franchise. It's going to be great. Thank you for indulging me as I am myself. And with this, with this, it's not going to be a huge podcast. It's going to be kind of like a medium-sized meal. Not too heavy. But I think to offset that, I'm going to have a 32-ounce mug of hot eggnog. Real eggy too. Extra egg, extra booze. What do they make? They put bourbon in eggnog, right? So yeah, a little extra burbs in there, a little extra nog, a little extra cinnamon. We're gonna do it up, okay? Let's hit it. So I hope you're having a great holiday celebration, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Hope you're enjoying yourself. Hope you're indulging. And that's kind of the theme for this pod. As I hinted at, yes, I'm indulging right now, okay? I'm a huge Phoenix Suns fan. I'm a huge Steve Nash fan. I used to love and still do appreciate Mr. Amari Stoudemire's stat. And he was standing tall and talented. He was dominant. People forget about him. But this year, in question, he only played 3 games. He had some sort of defect in his knee. He was experiencing soreness. So they, gave him surgery and shut him down for 4 months. So it was a different year for the Suns, but they still put up gaudy stats. The only sad thing is, and kind of looking over the stats, looking over this team, is once again I'm reminded of the Suns' nemesis. And they were a nemesis all those years. The San Antonio Spurs. Man. Now, they didn't meet the Spurs this year in the playoffs. This year in question. But they ultimately met the Mavericks at the very end of their run. But most years it was the Spurs. And just looking at the roster and seeing these players, I'm reminded of those playoff battles with the Spurs. They were always there. They were always there, folks, to slap the Suns right across the face. And, a lot of times, the Suns had the better team and there were some breaks. I mean, we all know about the Amari Stoudemire, Boris Diaw situation. When Nash was violently pushed into the not the stands, but the scoreboard. He was pushed by the hitman, Big Shot Bob, Robert Ory, who came out and said Tim Duncan wasn't even that good recently. He slandered Tim Duncan, this subhuman scum. Robert Ory, I just wanna. Okay, calm down. I go back to that place, and I tell you, man. Okay. But let's just start out by just going through the roster really fast. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna kind of just. I'm not gonna say every single player because some of these guys were just the end of the bench. Okay. Let's start with the crown jewel, Steve Nash. All right. This was the year right after Steve Nash was traded from the Dallas Mavericks. Another team that I enjoy. All those Dallas Mavericks teams with Dirk Nowitzki. What could have been if those two had stayed together? I mean, it wasn't like they chose to not stay together. It was, Mark Cuban thinking that Steve Nash had some injury histories. Injury histories? Is that plural, Simmons? No, it's not. He had a kind of a checkered injury history. His back, I think, flared up. The real, I mean, I think he had a issue with his back before, but it's got worse and worse. And in Dallas, it kind of flared up, and he was just kind of in and out of the lineup. And I think Mark Cuban looked at his age and said, well, what are the odds of this guy having a bunch more great years? Well, it turns out he took his game to another level in Mike D'Antoni's system, and part of that is the system. I mean, I'm a huge Nash head, as they call them, but I will concede that the system helped him out immensely. He definitely maximized that role, as James Harden is doing now, on a different level altogether. But or is it? I don't know. Is it a different level? We'll get into that a little bit, because maybe not this podcast so much, but we'll get into it when we do the Steve Nash pod, because James Harden, I think we would all agree he's a better offensive player than Steve Nash. Is he a better passer than Steve Nash? Did he get his teammates involved as much? Did he oil that machine with such care, like an auto mechanic, just making sure every little wheel was greased up, every player got the ball, everybody got their chance to shoot, everybody had big games on the Suns. There was, it wasn't always a Meyer. Sometimes it was Quentin Richardson. Yes, I did bring up Quentin Richardson, the man who initially was like a dunk maestro. With the Suns, he became a three-point shooter. And Steve Nash made him millions of dollars because of that year with the Suns. That was his only year with the Suns. But he averaged about 15 points a game and got a lot of open three looks. He took 8 threes a game, and he made 2.9 of them. So, about 36%, 35.8% from three. He's just an example of a lot of players that Steve just took their games to another level. And I'm not going to get into like Steve versus James Harden exclusively in this pod, but people have basically kind of downgraded Steve Nash because of what happened in New York with Jeremy Lin and Mike D'Antoni's system. But Steve did it for a long time. And besides being one of the greatest three-point shooters of all time, and I don't want to just zero in on Steve here, but the man shot 42.8% from three for his career. Now, that's all-time great. All-time great. He also shot a very high percentage from the field. That year, his first year, after leaving Dallas, he shot 50%. And it just so happened to be his first... No, it was not. I was going to say it was his first 50-40-90 season. 50% from the field, 40% from the three, and 90% from the free throw line. But he had 88% from the free throw line that year. It was the next year, fine listener, good sir, good madam, that he achieved that mark with 51% from the field. Shablam. 43.9 from the three. Boom. And 92.1% from the free throw line. Along with 18.8 points a game, which ended up being his career high. And like I was talking about with a good friend, Samuelson, who I recently had on the pod. It's kind of confusing. Like, which year are we talking about? Are we talking about 2004, 2005, or 2005, 2006? Okay, well, let's just focus on 2005, 2006. I mean, there were back-to-back MVP years for Nash. This is a second of a back-to-back. This team was a juggernaut offensively. Points a game, they were first. All right, opponents' points a game, they were 28th out of 30. So they were also first in pace. And then D'Antoni certainly revolutionized, how this speedy form of basketball. But I will say, there was other teams that had fast, went up and down the court fast. There was some Denver Nuggets teams that did that before Mike. But he is, I still think he's an underrated coach. What he's been doing with Houston, his track record with the Suns. He did, kind of crashed and burned in New York and LA. Made a lot of money though. But I still hold a very special place for him in my heart, and I always will. But so yeah, let's go back to the roster here. Let me get that up here really fast. Okay, so we have Boris Diaw, one of my favorite players. If you don't like Boris Diaw, then I just don't know what's wrong with you. The way he plays the game is so beautiful, and he's such a great passer, almost unselfish to a fault sometimes. So that year, that fateful year, the previous year he was in Atlanta, and he was just struggling in Atlanta. They didn't appreciate his talents. He's playing 18 minutes a game. He averaged 4.8 points. He was depressed. I listened to this podcast he did with Zach Lowe, and it sounded like those years in Atlanta were not fun. And he didn't like the years in Charlotte either. I think he didn't get along with I think it was Bob or Silas. Is it Bob Silas? Is everybody named Bob? Bob Nash? Bob Silas? Bob Sotomayor? No, who is that? Robert Silas? Anyway, he's an amazing rebounder. I should know his name. I'm not going to cut this part out because we're raw and uncut. Paul Silas. I typed in Silas rebounded, and that came up. And by the way, we're going to do other like Suns podcasts. I'm just touching on this season. We're going to go through the roster. We're going to look at the stats a little bit. But there'll be other Suns podcasts. So you might be like rolling your eyes like, really? More? But he played 35.5 minutes a game that year with Phoenix. This is my guy, Boris Diaw. He shot 52.6% from the field. All right. About 7 rebounds, 6.9 a game, 6.2 assists, which is excellent for kind of a power forward / small forward, whatever he would kind of even a center sometimes in that D'Antoni system, and 13.3 points a game. Now he scored more with Charlotte after leaving Phoenix. That's 15 points a game. But that I think that was kind of his best year. I mean, he just across the board production, efficient, playing a lot of minutes, really fun to watch. Even though Diaw's shining moment in my eyes, when you look at like playoffs, championships, was against the Miami Heat when he was guarding LeBron and just playing amazing basketball. In fact, we're going to look up, take a little tangent here, and we're going to look up his stat line against the Heat. Truly, Boris Mr. Diaw, the distinguished gentleman, he deserves his own podcast. And you know what? He'll probably get it, okay? But he played lights out against Miami in the 2014 finals. Okay, the first game against the Heat. I mean, this is like throwback Diaw. I really think he was the deciding factor. I'm not just saying that. The man had 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and only 2 points. But he was a plus 30, plus or minus. Obviously, we know that that's not the defining factor in stats. The plus or minus can be skewed. He didn't shoot well that game, but just the all-around production. Then the next game they lose, but he puts up another 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 7 points. Solid. He played 33 minutes the previous game, 32 minutes this game. The next game, they win again. He's a plus 20, plus or minus. 1 block, 1 steal, 3 assists, 5 rebounds, 9 points. Just solid. All right. Then 9 assists, 9 rebounds, 1 steal, 8 points. Almost a triple-double. A poor man's triple-double. Not a lot of points. Then 9 rebounds, 6 assists. This is the closeout game. 9 rebounds, 6 assists. 6 assists. Got to enunciate. 1 steal. And 5 points. Okay, was that boring for you guys? Because I really enjoyed looking at the Boris Diaw stats, okay? For the 2014 finals, in which the Spurs avenged the previous year's heartbreaking loss. That was hard to watch, wasn't it? Against the Miami Heat. I hated the Miami Heat that year. I hated them both years. That just super team. I don't think I've hated a team more in recent memory than that Miami Heat. I used to hate the Spurs a lot when I was a Suns fan, but I kind of flipped, you know. But yeah, that was a great pickup by the Spurs, getting Boris Diaw for basically nothing. I think it was a great buy low and stock speculation terminology. Anyways, so it's a little present and future with the great Boris Diaw. Then you had Raja Bell. All right, one of my favorite Suns. That year, he locked in from the three-point line, and he remained a good three-point shooter for his whole career. He shot 40%, 40.6 for his career. He kind of bounced around after Phoenix, sadly, and he wasn't appreciated as much. He was appreciated in Utah. You know, he had decent years in Utah. But that year with the Suns, he shot 44% from the three, 14.7 points a game. And he kind of took over the Quentin Richardson role. So I mentioned Quentin Richardson. He was 2004, 2005. Raja Bell was playing for Utah that year and doing well. 28 minutes a game, 12 points, shooting 40% from the three-point line. He was kind of a 3-and-D guy, one of the original, at least one of the first guys who was called 3-and-D. There were other guys who could shoot three-pointers and play defense. That jerk, I was going to say a horrible word, but I censored myself. That bad man, Bruce Bowen, that he will not, well, he might get his own podcast, but it'll be all lowlights. That dirty scumbucket of a player. I see him on ESPN all the time. You should go on YouTube and look up Bruce Bowen, dirty player. And there are myriad, countless video evidence examples of that man playing dirty. And I don't like him. I was a Suns fan. He was a Spurs cog, role player, always in the corner, always doing dirty stuff. Didn't like him one bit, but he was a 3-and-D guy too, okay? He was one of the original 3-and-D guys. Bruce Bowen. Anyways, so Raja Bell was playing great, raining threes. You had the Brazilian Blur, one of my favorites, Leandro Barbosa. Always had a smile on his face. And, you know, he was, when he played for the Suns, people were like, get that guy and let him be like the number one option even, or like the number two option. He was that effective and that good of a scorer early in his career that people really thought that, once he left the Suns, he was kind of like one of those guys, kind of like in waiting for his chance to become the guy. We've seen it plenty of times. Like Victor Oladipo, it's not the best example because he was kind of the guy in Orlando. But, he was getting 15 points a game with Westbrook. Then he goes to, the Pacers, and he becomes the guy, and he's putting up 25 points a game or more. People thought the same thing about Leandro. I thought the same thing. I thought that about Leandro, the Brazilian blur. Some people call him Avatar Man because of that Steve Nash video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to Steve Nash's YouTube channel. Okay, I gotta stop. I'm outing myself as this crazy Nash Suns fan. I know I am, but I don't want you guys to think I'm crazy. I think I'm too into the Suns because you'll get turned off by my fanboy obsession. And who am I kidding? You already know that. Anyways, so that year, it was his third year in the league, Leandro. The man shot 44.4% from three. Now, I want to make something clear to you guys. A lot of these Suns players shooting these great percentages is because of Steve Nash. All right? I got this mic, this portable mic, and I'm a little worried that it's rubbing against my shirt, but I'm going to get down a little closer and I'm going to whisper. Steve Nash set these guys up with perfect passes. He would penetrate the defense. All right? He'd penetrate the defense. He would collapse. He'd dish it out. He did it all the time. It would suffocate around him. He would dish. Okay? And that's why Raja Bell shoots, what did I say, 47% from three that year? He shot 45.7% from three. And Leandro Barbosa shoots 44. Now, these guys could shoot too. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying the amount of great open looks these guys got was amazing. So that's the main story about Barbosa. He played 27.9 points a game. The next year, he averaged 18.1 points a game. That was kind of that was the year when all the chatter started up, like, okay, this guy, if he gets to be the main guy, he could put up some huge numbers, and he probably could have. But then, for whatever reason, it might have been because of some injuries, but when he left Phoenix, it didn't totally pan out for him that way. He still was a great player, and he played for notably the Golden State Warriors, where he won a championship in 2014-15, but, and he actually went back and forth to the Suns. He played for the Suns in 13-14, and then came back and finished his career in 16-17. But what a fun player to watch. All right. Eddie House. You notice I'm saving some of the best for last here. Eddie House. All right. He had played for three teams in the previous year: Charlotte, Milwaukee, and Sacramento. Kind of bouncing around, wasn't really utilized properly. Comes to the Suns and immediately becomes a spark plug off the bench. And, he only plays 18 minutes a game, 17.5. But he takes 4 threes a game, shooting 38.9%, scoring 9.8 points, which is the second highest average for his career. Steve Nash made that guy some money because he went on to play for the New Jersey Nets. He kind of bounced around for that, but he had a long career, about 10-year career. Just another kind of fun player off the bench who could get hot. I mean, the man could get hot. To illustrate this, let's take a look at his game log. And there's some times where he just went off. For instance, like November 18th, 2005 against Utah. Blam, 31 points. He was 11 for 16 from the field, 7 for 11 from three. And, like, he would just win the game sometimes. He would just get so hot that he would just win the game. He had a streak that year in December 16th, 17th, and 20th, where he scored 26 points, 21 points, and 20 points. 2005. You know, he just would come off the bench and just be completely on fire. And, you know, he shot 4 for 8, 5 for 9, and 2 for 6 from the three in those 3 games. You know, he'd fall back down to earth, but he's just the kind of guy that you just look forward to seeing come off the bench. You knew he could get hot. They just had so many guys like that who could, like Leandro Barbosa could get hot from 3. Tons of guys on their team could get hot, including Jim Jackson, the journeyman. Oh man, he had some great games. You know, the bulk of his Phoenix Suns output was in 2004, 2005. Now, he played with the Suns in 2005, 2006. Okay, I should say in 2004, 2005, he shot 45.9% from the field. I'm sorry, from 3. 45.9% from 3. And he scored 8.8 points a game. Just another example of a guy who could shoot great from 3. I mean, when was the last time you've seen all these guys on one team who could shoot over 40% or even in the 45% range from 3? It's just kind of, it's gaudy. And I mean, you can point towards the Golden State Warriors of today's NBA, but this is just uncommon, and it was kind of similar to the Dallas Mavericks. And I'm going to be doing a Dallas Mavericks pod, multiple pods, but I'll probably do a Nash Dirk pod with my friend I mentioned before, Samuelson, who I've had on the pod recently. We're going to get into that, but you know, just so he played for Phoenix. Jim Jackson played for Phoenix 2005, 2006, but he didn't play that much for them. And his stats weren't as good, but I just wanted to mention him because he was another guy. He was on that roster, but you know, he just didn't have the same kind of output that year. And I think he might have even gotten traded or gotten cut. You know, another guy who played for the Suns was none other than LeBron James's BFF, James Jones. Yes, that James Jones. And in that year, he played for the Suns, and he shot 38.6% from the 3. He played 23 minutes a game. He scored 9 points. Again, another guy shooting almost 40% from the 3. And he's playing minutes. All right, so just another sharpshooter, you know, for the war chest. And then you had Tim Thomas, which has he's got kind of an interesting, a very interesting career with the Suns. Like, he came in and just in the playoffs especially was just lights out, like unbelievable. In fact, let's just quickly check out his playoff performances, because it really was impressive. So, Amari Stoudemire got hurt. Okay, so Tim Thomas was kind of thrust into this starring role, you know, and he played great. They played in the Lakers series. Okay, so the Suns played the Lakers, all right, and it was like a crazy 7-game series. They ended up winning, and then they played the Clippers, and then they played Dallas, and they ended up losing to Dallas. But God, man, Tim Thomas had just a fantastic run in those playoffs. His first game with the Suns, he scored in the playoffs against the Lakers. He scored 22 points, 15 rebounds, 2 steals. He was just shooting crazy percentages from the field as well. I don't want to go through all his stats in the playoffs, but maybe we could quickly look at his playoff statistics, and I'll let you know what his percentages were, because, well, they were pretty damn gaudy. I mean, he shot 44.4% from the three in those playoffs, and shot 49% from the field. 15 points a game, 6 rebounds. He stepped in for Amari. He made some huge shots, like shots to win the game. And it was just, he always had kind of a disappointing career. And it was just one of those years where everything just came together. And he played great. You know, he played 24 minutes a game that year for the Suns. And yet another guy who shoots over 40% from three. 42.9% from three. Tim Thomas. 2005-06 Phoenix Suns roster. 11 points a game. These guys were just hoisting them up. You know? Kind of unbelievable. Now I've got the totals in front of me, the team stats. Oh man. They were first in field goals, first in field goal attempts, first in field goal percentage, 47.9 as a team. They were first in 3-point makes, that's 10.2, and they were first in 3-point attempts, 25.6. And they were first in 3-point percentage, 39.9. They shot 39.9% from the three. Let's give them 40% as a team, and that was first. And they were first in free throw percentage, even though they were 30th in field goal makes, or free throw makes and free throw attempts. But this was just an amazing, just a great all-around shooting team. They were also first in assists, which is impressive, and they were first in points. They scored 108.4 points a game. One of the all-time great offensive teams. You know, we should compare them really fast to this Houston team this year. Wow. Okay, so it just shows you how the NBA has changed even since 2005, 2006. And everyone thought of, you know, that Suns team is such an offensive force across the board, and they were. But let's just compare this. This is the for reference. This is the 2017-18 Houston Rockets. We're in late December. It's not the whole year, but they are on a blistering pace. So they're not shooting as well from three as those Suns. They're shooting 35.7%, but they're making 14 threes a game. And they're taking 40. Okay, and both of those are first. So they're first in three-pointers made, and they're first in 3-point attempts, and they're shooting 35.7%, which is 15th. That is wild. So they're taking it to a whole other level. You know, it makes the 25 3-pointers the Suns were shooting kind of pedestrian. I mean, they're taking 15 more threes a game, but they're only making 4 more than the Suns. So these Suns could shoot. I mean, they were dead eyes, marksmen, eagle eyes, snipers, out there in the bushes, just bam, 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 just firing from deep, raining threes upon their enemies, much like, you know, in Game of Thrones when the archers, you know, they cock back and they fire, they hail their enemy with arrows. That's what the Suns were doing to their opponents. Another comparison is the Golden State Warriors of today. So let's look at this year's stats, okay? They are shooting 33s a game, which is 10th. They're 10th. 33s a game is 10th in the league now. And back then, 25 was first. So it just shows you where the league is going. I mean, this isn't news. This is the current state of the NBA. But they took 33s a game and they made 11.6. This is the current Golden State Warriors. They make 11.6 out of 30 threes for a 38.7% clip. And that's second. That's second in the league. It's just fascinating. Now I could keep going on and on. We could look at all the teams, but let's bring it back to the Suns. They ended up losing to the Mavericks, Nash's old team, in 6 games. And there's some exciting games, in this series. Some close ones. The Suns won the first game, 121, 118. And if I remember that game correctly, saw some big stat lines. Nash had 27 points, 16 assists. Shawn Marion, 24 points, 13 rebounds. I didn't really get into Shawn Marion. Let me just quickly touch on him because talk about a guy who couldn't shoot, save his life, and he had one of the ugliest shots you'll ever see in your life. Just a disgusting shot put, weird, but he shot 33% from 3 that year. He only took 3.6 threes a game. He shot 52.5% from the field. He scored 21 points a game. He had 11 rebounds a game, 2 steals, almost 2 blocks. The guy was a great defender, almost 2 assists. That was his best year of his career. 2005, 2006 with the Phoenix Suns was the best year of Shawn Marion's career in terms of points and rebounds and field goal percentage. Yeah. It was his best year for field goal percentage as well. It was his best year. And he was a great defender. He was just the kind of guy the Suns needed. Not the best shooter, but great defender. Great defender. And so anyways, yeah, the Suns lost to the Mavericks. And it was tough. It was tough, because it's where Nash used to play. And it was tough. But, let's just go ahead and end this podcast because I could go on and on and on. I'm using this portable mic. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great holiday. Enjoy the games on Monday. I guess, yes, that's Christmas. There's going to be some great matchups. Unfortunately, Steph Curry won't be playing against the Cavs, which is too bad. But should be some great games, exciting action. Thank you so much for listening to the Gaudy Stats podcast. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. 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 See ya. See ya. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you. See you later. Bye. Bye.